Hi, we're just going to do a little video today to run through the brewing process and see what a typical brew looks like. So the process is as follows. Sometime in advance, probably a week in advance, I'll have decided what I'm going to brew today, and then just make sure I've ordered in the grains and hops, and I've got the yeast that I need for that brew, so that happens well in advance. And the day before, what I've done yesterday is I've set up all my kit. So I've got here my Sparge ready, and my brew kit's all ready with the right amount of water in. I've also dosed these with some lactic acid just because of the water quality I've got here. I've set up my wort cooler. I've set up my in pipe. I've got cold water coming in, and then they'll have the warmer water going out to a sink. I've prepped my yeast. I've got a yeast starter going here on a yeast plate, so that is looking very happy at the moment, so that gets a nice head start. And I've also then prepared my grain bill, so I've measured out all of my grains into here. I'm ready to go. I've now programmed the steps that I want, so we are off. So that is brew day started. We'll just do a really short clip of each of the stages along the way till we see the finished product. Cheers. So we're up to temperature. So we are just, grains are going in. Just going for a couple at a time. Giving it a little bit of a stir, and we're just getting all our grains in for the mashing. So the mashing's done. So we've mashed out. So I've pulled up the grain basket, so it's already started draining out, and then we've connected up our Sparge water via the pump. And then we're now sparging, sorry. So there we go. We've got the nice water, 75 degrees, just gently on the top. I might just speed it up a little bit. And that is just filtering through the grains, getting all the lovely sugary proteins through into the boil. Oh! And here's my new toy that's just arrived, so we're going to be able to do some cask beer very shortly. So the lauter and sparge are done, and here we are just coming up to the boil. This is going to boil now for 60 minutes. So our first hop addition's gone in, so this is very early on in the boil. We've put some hops in via a spider, which is like basically a big tea strainer, so the hops are sort of immersed in the boiling water, but can't mix in it and make too much of a mess of the beer. So that's our first hop addition, a really early one, and these early additions tend to give bitterness. So the boil is finished, and we have dropped the temperature to 90 degrees and added some more hops into the spider. Been giving them a really good stir in, and then it's just going to sit there now for 10 minutes and do a hop stand before we do the rest of the cool. So I'll just show you the cooling setup, which I think is really funky. We've got a hose pipe coming in, just because it's the easiest way for me to do it, from an outside tap, and that comes into this coil here and goes round and round that coil, and then back out and away. I use what I can, so I fill buckets to do the cleaning and bits like that. But this has got a tube running within the tube, so while the water is going round one way that's cold and going out, we've got coming in the opposite direction, our hot wort is coming in, and it's going around inside the cool water and then back out and into our kettle here, so it's a really cool cooling process. So that's got 5 more minutes to go, just sitting as it is, and then we're going to cool it all the way down to about 23 degrees, and then we'll be ready to pitch it into the fermenter and add our yeast. So we're down to temperature 23. So all I've done is I've instead of like recirculating, turn the water off. So instead of recirculating, going back into cool, it's now going into the Fermentasaurus. Check that is, yeah, it's just filling up now nicely. That's all completely sterilised and ready to go. And I'm ready now to pitch my lovely yeast. Look how happy that is. That's been going for 24 hours. So if I can do this step ladder holding 2 things, all I'm going to do is pop that all in, trying really hard not to include the magnetic stir plate at the bottom, otherwise it's going to be staying in there for a couple of weeks. Can't see it coming yet. Where are you? Oh, it's right at the bottom. Just need to be careful I don't tip that in. Perfect. There we go. Yeast pitched. Nice and oxygenated. We want some oxygen at this point so the yeast can start eating. This is the Fermentasaurus Generation 3. It is an awesome fermenter, in my opinion, much better than the Fermzilla, even though the Fermzilla was more expensive. So all I'm going to do now is fill this up, seal it. I'll put my digital hydrometer in, I'll take a hydrometer reading as well, and then we'll monitor its progress. So we are 3, 4, 5, 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours post putting into fermenter, and we've already got 5 psi, and we've already got a little bit of a krausen started, which is incredibly quick. Quite often it takes 24, 36 hours. I get really nervous about, has the yeast failed? Do I need to put more yeast in? But that is cracking on already, just a couple of hours in. And more importantly, we're all cleared up. Hello, we are now 1 day in, almost exactly. It's 3 p.m. the next day. So just give you a show of where we're up to. So it was an incredibly quick start, as we saw. So this is a spunding valve. So it's attached to the gas outpipe of the fermenting vessel here. And you can set when you want the pressure to be released. So I've set it so that it's holding about, it's 14, 15 psi at the moment. And you can just leave that blowing off, but I've actually got it going into a kilner pot here. So you can see how vigorous that fermentation is. Possibly speeded along a little bit by the temperature. It was really warm last night. So inside here we've got I'm trying to keep the temperature down a little bit. It does, the cooling jacket does help. And you can see I'm putting ice blocks in here just to try and keep it down, but it's still 26. So traditionally you'd want it to be between 19 and 23 for this style of beer. You can see it's already got that lovely colour, you've got the action on top. The beauty of having the pressure is that you can ferment at higher temperatures under pressure. So I'm not too worried that it's a couple of degrees over. And the other really cool thing to show you is I've got in there floating around a digital hydrometer. And this brand is called an iSpindle. bought from Acid Solutions. Really excellent guys, and quite tricky to set up. But if we have a look here, you can see I've got a dashboard on my mobile, and I can see, so it essentially looks at how the tilt, that in water it would sit horizontal, and at really high alcohol, high gravity, it would sit flat. So I can keep an eye on the tilt there, I can keep an eye on the battery life, the temperature I can keep an eye on, and more importantly I can keep an eye here on the gravity, so I can see the gravity gradually coming down. I can put that into chart form, and I can look at this from anywhere. So I'm going away tonight, but I'll still be able to keep an eye on it and just check from distance that all is okay. So there we go, now we're 1 day in, and we're going to do our first dry hop on day 2 or 3, so I'm probably going to do that tomorrow or maybe Sunday. I think tomorrow, because it's been such a crazy fast ferment. So back again tomorrow. Bye. It's now day 7, and you can hopefully see that Krausen's really gone, fermentation's finished. I did do a first dry hop on day 2, but the video failed, I'm afraid, so I'll just show you the process. So what I've got to try and do effectively is get my hops in there without disturbing it as much as possible, and with the minimum amount of oxygen going in. So first thing I've got to do is I've got to depressurize this, because it's at about 15 psi. So the first thing that has to be done is to let the pressure release valve go. And this sometimes, yes, there you go, it kicks off, it releases the CO2, it goes bit bananas, and there can be issues with this. If you just took the lid off too soon, it overflows. You can see that's going to come up really high, and it's creating more and more gas. So I might have to do this a few times. The choice then is, with this, the Fermentasaurus, 2 choices. Once all the gas is released, I can unscrew the top, dump in my hops, screw it back up, or you can just take out this pressure release valve and just pour them through here. The problem I'm having with that is, even putting a funnel in, they block up every 2 seconds. So I'm going to go for see how high that is. That's gone now. At least it gives it a really good mix in. I'm going to have to stop when it gets to the top, or it's going to overflow. Just let that settle down a bit, and I need to grab my sanitizer. And you've just got to be a bit patient on this, because if you take the lid off, it can just go everywhere. And obviously there's no exposed to oxygen at the moment, because all that's happening is air's pushing out, but this valve only goes one way, so there's still nothing coming in contact. Let's let that die down a little bit more. And today, this is the second dry hop edition. We're putting in a mosaic lupomax, which is a variation of mosaic that I've never used before, so it's going to be really interesting. Right, here we go. I'm ready to put that back on again really quickly if it starts to blow, but we're okay. So I'm just going to lift that up. In go my hops. And then just going to repressure it So with my CO2, I'm going to put pressure back on that. So I'm just adding CO2, repressurizing the barrel. I think this gas canister may be nearly empty, so I may have to go to another canister. But once I'm there with that, I will just pop back on my spunding valve, and that will then release pressure if it's needed. So I've got that to about 6 psi. I'm going to put a little bit more in. There you go. So that's the second dry hop done. So just going to wait now for, I think I'll have to double check the recipe, but I think it's 7 more days, and then this will be ready to transfer into whatever dispense method we're going to use. It is now day 15. I've been measuring it every day or two, particularly just recently, and we have hit final gravity. It took a few days longer than expected, but we are now dispensing. So I've got some pressure coming in and I've got a pipe coming out, and we are slowly but surely filling up this corny keg. Here she is, all kegged up, chilling out, almost ready to go.